Medicine evolves one story at a time. Here's one worth telling. This is History Taking. So I've been binge watching a show called Drive to Survive on Netflix. It's 8 seasons long and it's about the behind the scenes of Formula One racing. It showcases the drama, the team politics, the pit strategy, the drivers, the team principles, the mechanics. And if you haven't seen it, it's not just about the cars, it's about the systems that are built behind them. There's coordination amongst all the groups I mentioned in order to save milliseconds of time, which sounds like nothing, but is absolutely precious to these drivers, and races are decided on those milliseconds. So what matters is who's in charge of what and when. In the show, sometimes they showcase pit stops, and when I saw one of those, I was reminded of this story. When a pit stop influenced not just the events on a racetrack, but also the events in a children's hospital involving actual lives. So it starts in the late 1990s, early 2000 region of Great Ormond Street Hospital in London. It's one of the most respected pediatric cardiac programs in the entire world. And surgeon Professor Martin Elliott and intensivist Dr. Alan Goldman are looking at their outcomes. And they see that their surgery numbers are good. And the ICU numbers are also good. But in between them, something is going wrong. Obviously, there are a lot of tubes and wires and machines and life support systems that are all needed to move in sync between the operating room to the ICU, but babies weren't surviving this transit period due to some mistake or another. So they wanted to get more data on this, so they actually start filming that handover period. And what they see is a lot of people are talking over each other, monitors are connected in random order, there's critical information getting lost in the noise, and no one is clearly in charge here. The data backs this up too. A high number of infants that are undergoing heart surgery were not surviving the handover from the operating theater, and from the documents that were provided before any intervention, they actually saw that 39% of these patients had errors in both the equipment and information handovers simultaneously. Not one or the other, but both at the same time on a baby that was fresh off the bypass machine. So just to give you some context here, usually when you have an issue in medicine, the discussion happens amongst people in medicine. You reach out to other hospitals and you say, hey, we have this problem. Do you guys have the same thing? Did you solve this? Surgeons are talking to other surgeons. Physicians are talking to other physicians. You read some surgical series. You go to some conferences and bring up this discussion, have panels to talk about this. You talk to colleagues. We even have things like grand rounds where we go over a bunch of cases and have this review, or M&M conferences where we really pick apart what went wrong, or peer review options. This is the loop that allows physicians and other healthcare professionals to stay and understand how one day's mistakes could lead to another day's improvements. But Elliott and Goldman had a different idea. They thought maybe the right people to ask about this weren't physicians to begin with. Maybe it's just another group entirely. They had one pretty subpar patient transfer, and afterwards, they saw part of a Formula One race on TV, and what captured their attention was the pit stop. They noticed that within seconds, 4 tires were changed, adjustments were made, the car was back on track, and everyone in that pit stop crew had a defined rule. No one was freelancing, there was zero wasted motion, and Elliott and Goldman looked at each other and thought, this is what we're trying to do with our patients. And they recognized the importance of teamwork in transforming this highly risky pit stop scenario to something that's safe and quick and efficient. And they wondered, if they can do it, why can't we? So they wanted to learn about how F1 kept their team efficient. And so they decided to reach out to McLaren. And McLaren apparently had a discussion where they learned the importance of small mistakes that might go unnoticed. But then they contacted Ferrari and they actually traveled to Maranello. And in 1999, the two doctors visited the Ferrari Formula One team in Maranello, Italy, to observe the pit stop operations firsthand. They studied how each crew member's movement, position, and timing were choreographed, and how communication was managed under intense time constraints. The doctors actually bring videos of the baby handovers, and they show these videos to the pit crew engineers. And the Ferrari engineers and the pit crew analyze these videos of the baby handovers. Their verdicts were the transfers were shoddy, noisy, uncoordinated. There was no clear leadership. They tore it apart. They also noticed something else in this whole conversation. They sat around a big table analyzing and reanalyzing and asked the question, what could go wrong? And what are we going to do if it does go wrong? And everyone's idea was given equal weight until the group ranked them using an analysis known as failure modes and effects, FEMA. And the hospital strategy was instead waiting until something went wrong to figure out what they should have done. This is the key difference here. You have a sort of backup plan. You have a sort of expectation that maybe something does go wrong and you account for that. Whereas the hospital was more reactionary about it. Junior mechanics, chief engineers, same table, same question, had an equal voice every time as a part of the discussion, rather than just having some senior officials arbitrarily taking charge. So later, they built upon this. The members of the Ferrari and Williams F1 teams actually visited Great Ormond Street Hospital to watch an actual patient transfer in person. The F1 engineers analyzed the handover process and provided feedback on the workflow design, positioning, and communication to help the medical team redesign the procedure in order to reduce confusion and delays. They process mapped out the whole thing, every person, every position, every step, and laid out and scrutinized the way that they'd analyze one of their pit stops. So here are some of the changes they made. One of these was called the Lollipop Man problem. In the old handover, there was no one like the Lollipop Man. That's the F1 guy who maintains the overall situational awareness during the stop. It was unclear who was in charge. Under the new protocol, the anesthesiologist was given the overall responsibility for coordinating the team until it was transferred to the intensivist at the termination of the handover. Task cards started to be placed. Each team member got a laminated card. It identified your role, your position, your sequence. There's no improvising anymore. Parallel processing also matters. The surgeon briefed the ICU team while the nurses connect the monitors, not one after the other, but simultaneously. Closed-loop communication also matters. Every order was repeated back. There's no assumption of receipt. They had an explicit handoff of commands. The anesthesiologist passed things off to the intensivist, verbally and witness. The baton is passed. The new handover protocol was focused on leadership, task allocation, rhythm, standardized processes, checklists, awareness, anticipation, communication. It was simple to understand. It was easily trainable, and within 15 to 30 minutes, it could be established at the staff induction. So they trained the team, ran it, filmed it again, and the difference was night and day, visible before they even ran the numbers. But let's talk about the numbers. In Pediatric Anesthesia in 2007, this was published, and they saw that technical handovers reduced from 5.42 on average to 3.15. Information omissions went from 2.09 to 1.07. It was cut nearly in half. And the headline, patients with error in both equipment and information simultaneously dropped from 39% from before to 11.5%. Critical handover errors reduced by 67%. This protocol that took 15 to 30 minutes to teach saved so much. This didn't stay at the hospital. The model obviously spread, and the numbers at other institutions are striking. In 2017, the pit stop model was applied to robotic surgery OR turnovers, and the average time cut down from 99 minutes to 53 minutes. In 2019, a New York academic hospital applied the same principles to OR turnover, and that dropped from 37 minutes to 14 minutes, saving an estimated 19,500 a day just from this time save. That New York study also found that to get these results, they had to eliminate 7 institutional dogmas and change 3 hospital policies, indicating a culture problem at the hospital and that needs to be adjusted. There needs to be this hierarchy, and that makes surgery work. The surgeon at the top, everyone else defers, and that seems to work. Structured handoffs, closed-loop communication, crew resource management in the OR, all of these are now standard patient safety language, all downstream of the same insight. And Drive to Survive sometimes gets criticized for, you're propagandizing, you're over-dramatizing events. But Elliott and Goldman saw something that was genuine. That pit stop wasn't part of the drama. It was part of a very proactive system that works to make sure things stay efficient no matter what life throws at you. A 2025 systematic review confirmed that the most impactful OR efficiency gains still trace back to this parallel processing system and established team dynamics, which is exactly what Ferrari taught at Children's Hospital 2 decades ago. So Elliott and Goldman simply watched the tire change and asked the question that most of the colleagues did not consider. What do they know that we don't? So yeah, next time you're watching a race, you can think about how not only are they risking their lives on the track, but thanks to Ferrari and some other teams, they actually saved a lot of lives in hospitals. This has been History Taking. Thanks for listening. Want to talk about the latest episode or give us feedback on how to make the show better? Feel free to reach out on our Discord in the show notes below. Want to send support? Feel free to engage with our Patreon. This is just a passion project for us, but we're always looking for ways to make this better. Thanks for listening.